I'll try to have like a fiery class. So. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rāma Hare Rāma 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 Hare 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 Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rāma Hare Rāma 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 Hare 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 Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rāma Hare Rāma 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 Hare 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 Rāma Hare Rāma 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Mr. Pad Paramahansa Bhagavad-gita Ashtottara to the Sri Srimad of Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Bhagavad-gita Ashtottara to the Sri Srimad of Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Jai All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Kṛṣṇa All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Kṛṣṇa All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Kṛṣṇa All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Welcome. Nice to see you. So, Chad Prabhu, I have to ask you, where'd you find it?
Oh, I did.
You didn't find it?
No.
Oh, it was in the.
Mataji found it. It's somewhere back there.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll track this down. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 29th day of January 2024 in San Diego, reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge, text number 38. Yeah. Now forgive me, did I do Om Namo Bhagavate? I did do that. Okay. Okay, so we'll just welcome. Yeah, if you'd like to sit over here. Actually, we kind of have the ladies and the men can be separated. You can sit here. There you go. Hare Kṛṣṇa. We just need one more book. Right there behind you. Hey, you can for you. Oh, I see. I'm sorry. I didn't see she was finding the page. Okay, page 224, text 38. And we do word by words, individual words. Na hi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalenatmani vindati nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitramiha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalenatmani vindati nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitramiha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalenatmani vindati nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitramiha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalenatmani vindati. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitramiha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalenatmani vindati. Chad. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitramiha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalenatmani vindati. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitramiha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalenatmani vindati. Anyone else want to try? Can you do it? Go ahead. Nahi sadrisham pavitramiha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalenatmani vindati. Anyone online? No. Go ahead. Go ahead. Nahi jnanena sadrisham
Pavitram iha vidyate
pavitram hiya vidyate
tatsvayam yoga samsiddha
tatsvayam yoga samsiddha
kalenatmani vindati.
kalenatmani vindati. Thank you. Na, nothing. He, certainly, Gyanena, with knowledge, Sadrisham, in comparison, Pavitram, sanctified, Iha, in this world, Vidyate, exists. We're on page 224, Prabhu. Tat, that, Swayam, himself, Yoga, in devotion, Sangsiddha, he who is mature, Kalena, in course of time, Atmani, in himself, Vindati, enjoys. Translation. Page 224. In this world, says Krishna, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. Purport. When we speak of transcendental knowledge, we do so in terms of spiritual understanding. As such, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Ignorance is the cause of our bondage, and knowledge is the cause of our liberation. This knowledge is the mature fruit of devotional service, and when one is situated in transcendental knowledge, he need not search for peace elsewhere, for he enjoys peace within himself. In other words, this knowledge and peace culminate in Krishna consciousness. That is the last word in the Bhagavad Gita. Om Ajnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him. So this chapter, we're about to conclude the chapter in a few verses, is titled Transcendental Knowledge. And when we think about it, knowledge is essential to success in human life. Even just putting aside for a minute the spiritual success, the gradual accumulation of knowledge, material knowledge, scientific knowledge, has enabled the construction of wonders that couldn't have even been imagined 100 years ago. I got this little device. I can pick it up and call, and hit a few buttons here and talk to someone on the other side of the world. Can you imagine, someone telling that to someone in the 1890s or something, Yeah, right, come on. It's just a myth. It'll never happen, But by accumulation of scientific knowledge and how electrons can move and everything, everything they've got, the cell phone is now in everybody's pocket. Now, but one can ask, has that made everyone blissful and happy? No. There are various kinds of knowledge that can, practically all knowledge, different, of the material world can be used for good or evil. Right? Just like one cannot say, I think it was today in the morning we had is money good or bad? It's both. It can be used for good. You can help people with it. You can build a temple with it. Or you can go buy a gun and go crazy, right? So the money itself is neither good or bad. It's simply an energy that we can bring a certain amount of it into our control and use it according to our knowledge, according to what we think. So the knowledge is the key. And this is a book of knowledge we're studying called Bhagavad Gita. Now the interesting thing about the Bhagavad Gita is that it's recognized in many, many quarters for many, many years as a book of unique knowledge. It was studied, right? It was studied in Europe. The American Transcendentalists, Whitman, I think, and Emerson, and they like the Bhagavad Gita. We even on the back here we have a quote from Emerson, I think. Yeah, Ralph Waldo Emerson says, "I owed a magnificent day to the Bhagavad Gita. It was the first of books. It was as if an empire spoke to us, nothing small or unworthy, but large, serene, consistent, the voice of an old intelligence, which in another age and climate had pondered and thus disposed of the same questions which exercise us." Well, he had some appreciation for the Bhagavad Gita, obviously. But this is known as the Bhagavad Gita as it is. And that's a very important distinction. Because the Bhagavad Gita, first it's in Sanskrit. And it needs to be explained by someone who has achieved the goal of the Bhagavad Gita. The idea is that it's a mystery. It can be a mystery. Certainly with our lack of Sanskrit knowledge, we need the help of the synonyms and the translation and the explanation. And who is doing the explaining is such an important aspect. Srila Prabhupada would, there's a Bhagavad Gita which I have on my shelf because I work as an editor and we're often critiquing these books, and so I have to. So he was the president of India back in, mid-20th century. And he wrote a commentary on Bhagavad Gita. But believe it or not, those of us who are familiar with the Bhagavad Gita and what the point of the Bhagavad Gita, which is ultimately devotion to Krishna and God realization and giving you a chance to achieve the real goal of human life, which is liberation. This is the main goal. This is liberation from the prison of birth and death, old age and disease. This samsara chakra, which the Buddhists very popularized in the West in the 50s and 60s. This is what we're all going through. So the Bhagavad Gita speaks in many places about that. But you have to understand it as it is. So this, at the end of the 9th chapter, there's a key verse which is repeated in the 18th chapter, which describes what the essence of the Gita is all about. So Krishna sums it up. He says, here's the most confidential knowledge. Here's the essence of what I'm telling you. I'll give you the Sanskrit. Manmana bhavamat bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mamai vaishasi yuktvavam atmanam matparayanaha. So what that means, it's a simple Sanskrit. Manmana means think of me. Bhavamat bhakto means become my devotee. Madhyaji means to worship me. And Mam Namaskuru means to offer your obeisances to me. Just like the end of that song, we bow down, in recognition of Prabhupada and Krishna. Thus, linked with me through yoga, through these processes, you will certainly come to me when you leave this body. We never die. Nobody dies. Nobody in this room is going to die. Nobody has ever died, and no one has taken birth. But we enter different bodies and leave them. And entering a new body is known as birth, and leaving this body is known as death. But we don't die. The soul, the self, the person persists. And that's why there is such a thing as transmigration, which is one of the first lessons of the Bhagavad Gita. So it's very, it's kind of encouraging to know that you won't die. But we need knowledge in order to know how to act and what to do in the rest of our life that we have in this body, so that we don't have to take birth again. So in Prabhupada's immortal phrase, we will go back home, back to Godhead at the end of this life. In other words, we are all exiles here. We don't belong here. And the proof of it is that it's not unmitigated bliss, our life, right? There's so many dangers, so many negative things happening, Just getting old is not very positive. I can attest to that. There's all kinds of infirmities that come. I can't do this anymore. I used to do that. What happened? I forgot who that was, So that's just one of the things. One of the things you learn is there's this something called the threefold miseries in this world. There's different categories of difficulties. Just like right here in San Diego. Well, when I first came here in '89, I was really surprised about the ideal weather. It's practically, I came from Miami, which, is great in the wintertime, but it gets really hot and humid, and then we have these hurricanes that blow in off of the Atlantic Ocean, or coming off the Gulf. They're always threatening. So it wasn't ideal, although it's kind of nice in one way. But when San Diego's, I came here in '89, in July, just the end of summer. It wasn't that hot. It was like, upper 70s maximum, and then the fall was just idyllic, 72 to 75 every day, you're near the beach. Did I go to heaven? I died and go to heaven? No, I just think, this is like ideal. But it's not, not always ideal. We just had all of these floods. People were calling me and writing me an email, are you okay? They heard about the terrible floods and everything. And I said, well, it was pretty bad north, west, and east of us. But, not west, north, east, and south of us, but we didn't have any problem. We lucked out again. And you remember, were you here for the hurricane? You remember the hurricane? Wasn't a hurricane that wasn't really a hurricane. But that was just good fortune. You know, eventually things happen in this life. So there's threefold miseries: hurricanes, earthquakes, floods, all of that, too cold, too hot, droughts. That's called adi-daivik. These are miseries caused by higher forces that you can't really do anything about. You know, as try as they might, you can't control nature. So these things happen. Tornadoes. When I first arrived here, I had come from Hawaii, where you have to worry about the Miami, you have to worry about the hurricanes. But now I knew, and I had read up on, the San Andreas Fault. Am I on the fault? You know, and I looked up. No, the fault is a little bit west of us, east of us here. You know, so but still, there's a threat of earthquake. I remember I was upstairs, where we have the ashram. Now we have some men's ashram. We used to have the gift shop up there, and you could go up and chant. We chant, you know, japa. So I was chanting. It was like, you know, 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning. Suddenly the whole building is swaying. We had a different set of chandeliers, and I ran down and I saw the chandeliers going this way and that way. Now, if I was really Krishna conscious, I would have run this way and see how the deities are doing, but I didn't. I ran that way and out the door. Out the door. I'm on the sidewalk, and it's like I'm on a surfboard. There's a serious earthquake here, but it was not that serious. You know, that was the worst, and it subsided after a few minutes. Welcome, Prabhu. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Victor. Yeah, have a seat. You can get a Gita from the closet. You know where they are, right? And we're on page 224. So that's called an adi-daivik misery. It means it's by the devas, the gods, the forces of nature. And we know there's so many of them. You know, there's the earthquake, there's the weather too cold, too hot. These are one classification of misery. Then there's adi-bhautik, which we're definitely familiar with if we have any brothers or sisters. Sometimes, if they're older, they torment you. You know, they you know. And that's just minimal, you know. There can be wars, and so, and that's just human beings. Prabhupada gives examples of bed bugs. You know, when he was in India, he got bed bugs, all kinds of things. Now, sometimes they're mixed because the disease we commonly think of adi-atmic. This is the third. If your own body and mind is giving you trouble, which we all have, you know, experience of that to one degree or another. This is called adi-atmic. You can't blame it on someone else, you know, and it's not adi-daivik, it's adi-atmic. But what about this pandemic? You know, is it adi-atmic? Well, it seems to be, but there's these little buggers, right? The virus, you know, we had pictures of them, they're still out there, you know. So that's kind of another adi-bhautik that ends up with an adi-atmic misery. But the point is that these are inevitably part of material life. You have to face them, you have to plan for them, you get insurance, you know, whatever, you know, build a house. So that's what it means to be embodied soul. But if the soul is free of that body and we are reinstated in our original spiritual body, and this is we don't know about, you know, but this is what knowledge we have to hear about. We all have a spiritual body, Swarup Siddhi it's called. Swarup means our own form, our eternal original form. Now what determines what kind of form we have? Our relationship with Krishna, with God. This is our original home. And this place, the material, is a probably, you know, a distorted reflection of it. Just like love, you know, you have to have love. I remember I had this experience, I've been around so long. Well, I would go to India practically every other year at a certain point. And you're looking for the cheapest flight, you know. So I found a flight that took me through Romania, of all places. She knows. They had just got independence, you know, they just got... And so it was cheap. It was like $700 round trip, you know, which is pretty cheap. So I took it. So we ended up landing and we had a layover where else? In Bucharest, right? So we get off the plane, and there's all these guys in the airport in these black leather jackets. They looked like they was part of a gang or something. You know, what is this? You know, they didn't bother us. They looked kind of severe, you know. But okay, Hare Kṛṣṇa, you know. And then I walked outside, and it had been under the Soviets for a long time, and they built this architecture can be very oppressive, you know. All the big apartment buildings look like big radiators, you know. It's like it wasn't a nice feel. So this was I just experienced it there, you know. We laid over for an hour or something, then we went on, you know. So that's a temporary situation I had, and you know, luckily it didn't, you know, it didn't really impinge too much on my life, but it was kind of a dangerous thing, a little bit fearful for a while, you know. So that's what material life is. Material life is sometimes completely unpredictable. Things happen, you know, and that's part of the fear. That's part of the anxiety. That is what material life is all about. But in the spiritual world, one of the names is Vaikuntha. Antonella will tell her, what does Vaikuntha mean? You remember? Planet. The Vaikuntha planets. Yeah. But what does the word Vaikuntha mean? Arya Siddhanta, who's an old devotee, he's a very senior devotee, plays an excellent drum. He'll tell me what Vaikuntha means.
The place of no misery.
No misery, no anxiety. Kunta is anxiety. Can you imagine that? No hint of fear or anxiety or worry. Can we even imagine a place like that? Better than heaven. Because in heaven, material heaven, you may enjoy for a long time, but it's still temporary. Even if you're up there for 1,000,000 years, you have to eventually come back down here to this world of birth and death, Krishna says in this 9th chapter. So anyway, back to the theme here, and that is knowledge. By this transcendental knowledge, Krishna is speaking to us, and he's trying to help us, instruct us how you can come back to him. He wants us to come back. And in order to do that, we need to transform our consciousness. And through the process of yoga, it's called bhakti yoga. Yoga basically means to link. So to link our consciousness to Krishna, to God. How? Well, he gives various ways here. And eventually he says, well, just forget all those. Just surrender unto me. And always think of me, worship me, bow down to me, as I gave that same verse appears in chapter 18. And then you will come to me. I promise you this because you're my very dear friend. Now he's speaking to Arjuna, but we're all friends of Krishna. We've just forgotten it. We've been wandering around in this forgetfulness for unlimited lifetimes, and unfortunately, not always in human form. We can lose this human form. And so, we're all very fortunate. Everyone in this room, at least everyone I can see, maybe some insects, is a human being. And you're all here with Bhagavad Gita. And so if we take this knowledge seriously and try to apply it in our own lives, we'll begin the adventure, if you will, of going back home, back to Godhead. So back to the verse it says, now here he's saying this knowledge. How does this knowledge come about? Well, a few verses before, we learned in text 34 of the importance of a guide, the spiritual master. We know a guru. The guru had certain very important characteristics according to the Shastra, according to the scripture. Not only in Bhagavad Gita, but other scripture. So let's just look at text 34 for a minute. We'll skip the Sanskrit. Just try to learn the truth, this knowledge, by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service to him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Now this idea of purification of the senses so that we can gradually see the spirit in everything. Now we can understand it's there, and we can understand, if we have faith, in the things that we can do to transform our senses, purify our senses, so that one day we'll actually be able to see spirit. So, but Krishna is so kind that even though we can't see spirit, he still appears to us through matter, like these paintings. These are all, of course, these are all reproductions, except for one. There's one original painting in this room. Who knows what it is? Yes, you know. Did you say Gornatai? Did you know that before? Yeah, you knew it. Yeah, that's the original painting, and the others are electronic reproductions. They're still very nice, So this is the way Krishna can appear to us, through the material energy, and this way we can grow our faith through sound. This is the most important way Krishna appears to us. We can hear, we can hear any kind of sound we choose to. Now you're hearing me try to explain Bhagavad Gita, we're reading Krishna's words. But that sound, that Hare Kṛṣṇa mantra, it's called the Maha Mantra. This was given and propagated by Krishna just 500 years ago in the form of Lord Chaitanya. He wasn't in the form of the threefold men with the flute and everything, he had a different color. But it's the same Krishna. And this is the easiest, simplest, most joyful, and easily practiced means of God realization. It's yoga. when we chant Hare Krishna, if I chant and then you chant and I hear, this is called Sankirtan. Kirtan means singing the name of God. You know, any kind of singing, but especially. And Sankirtan means together. We're singing together. The chorus is singing in unison, and I'm singing like that. So that was Lord Chaitanya's mission: the chanting and the dancing and playing musical instruments. No big austerity. You don't have to go and off to the Himalayas, you know, and fast for, you know. No, not necessary. Just join the kirtan and immerse yourself in the sound, hear carefully, and understand what that sound is. It's the name of God. Now, where does it come from? It's in the Upanishads. Those who know something about the Vedic scriptures, these are the crown jewels of the Vedas, the Upanishads. There's the 108 main ones. We have one of them translated Ishopanishad. And in this Upanishad, there's 2 verses that talk about Hare Krishna. So the first one, it actually gives it a little differently, Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma. But it's basically, once you chant it once, it doesn't really make much difference. You're back, Hare Krishna. So it's a Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. 16 names. So the second verse after that goes, Iti Shodashakam Nam Nam, Kali Kalmashanashanam, Natak Padatarobhaya Sava Vedeshu Drishyate. I think maybe our Siddhanta knows what that means, right? But anyway, he may have forgot. So what that second verse means is, these 16 names, Shodashakam Nam Nam, Kali Kalmasha Nashanam. Nashana means to destroy. Kalmasha means all the negativities and problems of what? Kali Yuga, this age. This is another thing we learn, knowledge, about how there's, ages go like seasons. There's a golden age, the Satya Yuga, the age of truth, where everybody was a Brahmin, everybody meditated, and they led such pure lives and simple lives. They lived a long, long time, up to 100,000 years. And so there was none of all of this craziness. You know, there was a lot more purity and peace. But it doesn't last. Everything in the material world gradually degrades. So after, I think 1,700,000 years, the next stage comes, Treta Yuga. And in that age, a little more confusion comes in. People don't live quite as long, and there's the means of of realization in such a yuga was meditation. People are very skilled. Some of you have heard of Lord Ram. You know about Lord Ram. Arya Siddhanta does. You know. Nice picture of Sita Ram there. So Lord Ram lived in that age, Treta Yuga, the second age. And in that age, the means of realization wasn't this meditation, but elaborate sacrifices. They would go on for days, a lot of ghee would be, and the Brahmins were very skilled in pronouncing the mantras very skillfully. You know, just like here we have a few people who were able to chant Hare Krishna, the verse, not so perfectly, but it's okay. But every pronunciation has to be very perfect if you're doing these elaborate sacrifices. Otherwise, you can get the different result. So that was going on in the Treta Yuga. And then gradually, after a certain time, you know, it degraded more. Then it came to Dwapara Yuga. And in that age, people lived maximum 1,000 years. And the means of realization was elaborate deity worship. We have our deity worship here. It is very wonderful. But I must say that all the jewels, they're not really gold and diamonds and you know, rubies and things like that. It's just too expensive. But Krishna doesn't mind as long as we're doing as much as we can, you know, nicely. So you'll see, the Pujaris do a wonderful job here taking care of the deities. And so, but you can imagine in South India, there's still some very elaborate temples, much larger, and like even in Puri, which is at least 1,000 years they do, like more than that. And they offered over 50 times a day massive amounts of prasadam, and they feed anyone who comes. You know, thousands of people are able to take prasadam every day in Puri. That's one of the, and they have this wonderful festival called Ratha Yatra, where Jagannath and deities come out of the temple, and they ride in a chariot down, and a million people will come and chant Hare Krishna, you know, every year. For the pandemic, they couldn't do it; it was too dangerous. But so that's we have remnants of that. But then in this Kali Yuga, you know, even that is very hard. And so Lord Krishna comes and gives this easiest process of all. You can do it at home. You know, it doesn't. You know, there's no prerequisite. Anyone from any socioeconomic stature or whatever, you can chant. The others have restrictions. If you want to chant the Vedas, you have to be a Brahmin, you know, and you have to chant Prajna. But here, even if you don't chant so well, come on, you join us on Hare Kṛṣṇa chanting. And so he says, Iti Shodashakam Kali Kalmasanasanam, these 16 names can destroy all the negativities of the Kali Yuga. So in this, there's no easier path, no better path in this age for self-realization than chanting the holy name. So this is, the Bhagavad Gita mentions the holy name, but doesn't emphasize as much as some of our other books, the Srimad Bhagavatam and especially the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So just back to the knowledge. Once we have this knowledge of who we are, what this world is, what our mission is, and the knowledge of how to execute it, then it's just up to us to accept it and to actually act on it. Just like a child, you know, is learning. I remember when I was a kid, I learned how to play a musical instrument, right? So it was always the question, Tommy, my name was Tom, did you practice your clarinet today? Okay, Mom, you know, I said practice the clarinet. So I had to be pushed a little bit, but after a while I really liked it, you know, and so I was playing spontaneously. So there's a knowledge, and then there's the goal that the knowledge will help you reach, and then there's your own application, and that's up to each of us to accept the knowledge. And that's why the guru or the spiritual preceptor is so important. Because if you have faith in the teacher, and we have the reflection of it, even in ordinary teaching, you know, school. Just like Sukanto here is just enrolled in school, right? College. So he has to have faith. He came all the way here from India, right, to attend school. No? Bangladesh. All right, that's close enough to India. So because he had faith that the good school here is in California, you know, and everything. So he has faith that he enrolls here, and the teachers will, you know, he'll be able to get a nice degree in whatever he's going to do. And if you don't believe in that, then you won't come. So we need to have faith in the teacher, and he has certain characteristics that are given in the Shastra. And one of them here is in the Bhagavad Gita, Tattvadarshi. Just to go back to text 34. Tattvadarshinaha means he has seen the truth. Someone who has purified his senses through the process of yoga and actually can see within and without the divinity. He can see everything, Krishna in everything. You know. Now you actually see through knowledge. I give the example, when I was a kid, we lived in Long Island, so we go into the city every now and then. There's nice museums there. You know, Museum of Modern Art and Natural History and things like that. So I would go to the museum and I'd see a Rembrandt, or I'd see this, I saw a Picasso, you know, and I didn't really know much, so I was just a kid. But when I got in high school, I got more interested in the art, and my parents bought me a set of books. And I learned more about what are some of the symbols in the art and what the colors that are used, and through that knowledge, I saw differently. Just like this painting here of Sita Ram. If someone walks in the temple, they have no idea who they are or what it is, what are they going to make of it? Well, there's a, you know, kind of a nice-looking man and a woman in the forest, and that's about it. You know, they're glowing. They said glowing. Okay, I'll ask one of the devotees who they are, you know, because it's obviously something important. But you don't know, you know. But if you know, and you're Ram Bhakta, we had our Frederico. When he first came, he was offering obeisance to that. He was really into Ram, you know, Lord Ram, which is good, you know, but he would chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. You know, this is not Federico. What is it? Anyway, because he had some understanding, he read the Ramayana like that. So with the knowledge comes more and more appreciation, and the same thing will be there for every aspect of Krishna consciousness. As with Krishna is within each of our hearts. He's there as what we call the super soul. We ourselves, as the soul, infinitesimal particle of spirit, irreducible, we never die. We're in the heart, and from that heart, it's pumping the blood and it's taking the consciousness to different parts of the body, you know. And that's how we're living in this body. But Krishna is also there, and he's willing and able and eager to enlighten us from within. If we pray, if we chant the name, we purify, we open up the channel. and sincerely, then we get more inspiration from within. He says that in the 10th chapter. There are 4 essential verses, and it begins with Aham sarvasya pabhavo mattak sarvam bhavartate itimad bhavajante mam buddha bhava samanvata. I am the source of everything. Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this well worship me with all their hearts. Well, how do they do that? Matchitta, matgata prana, bodhiyantak parasparam, katayantaschamam nityam tushyanti chadamanticha. He doesn't, it's not very difficult. He's not giving some difficult to perform, process here. He says, matchitta, they think of me. There's so many ways to think of Krishna: chanting his name, discussing Bhagavad Gita, reading books about him. Gata prana. Now this means that they dedicate their lives to me. And so they do, in their lives, they're seeing everything as a service. This is an advanced position, but it's still natural for the soul. And bodhiyantak parasparam, that's what we're doing here, discussing me amongst themselves, according to authorized books. Bodhiyan parasparam, katayantaschamam nityam. They're always glorifying me, talking about me, and in this way, tushyanti chadamanti. They're feeling very satisfied and blissful. Ramanti means they're enjoying spiritual happiness by glorification. And then what does Krishna do on his side? And this is the verse I was reading. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. To those who are thus always worshiping me by glorifying me, bhajatam priti purvakam, with devotion and love, glorify me and serving me, I give them the intelligence from within to come to me. Not only within and without, but here he manifests externally as the Guru and as the Shastra, the scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. This is Krishna speaking to us. These verses in the writing we can't understand. There's a few of us maybe can read this. I don't know if there's any. Sukanto, read Devanagari, right? Somewhat. Same thing as Hindi, right? Hindi letters. Yeah, but then Prabhupada gives it into the words that we still have trouble chanting, right? All this. But then he translates each word, and then he gives us the English, then he explains it. So this is our spiritual master's effort. He would get up in the middle of the night. He's traveling all over the world. He's managing this growing society, So when is he going to write the books? 12 at night. He would sleep for a couple hours, get up in the middle of the night. They had a dictaphone so he could do it faster. And he spent a couple hours, maybe 3 hours, crafting these verses and purports. He had books he was referring to, and he would, the commentaries, and he would do like that. So this is we're enjoying the great effort of his austerity and sincerity in giving us this knowledge. Which he himself had realized and received from his spiritual master in the Shastras. So it's not some kind of speculation. These are all, authorized explanations from realized souls who have seen the truth. So Srila Prabhupada is giving it. So I'll stop there. If there's any questions on any of these points, he's describing, we just read that knowledge is so purifying and so wonderful that one vindati means to enjoy it within oneself as you progress in Krishna consciousness, and you become more and more realized. So that's a wonderful thing here describing. All right, why don't we go on? Text 39. Shradhava labhate jnanam tatparak sangyatendriyaha jnanam labdva param shantim acharena digacchati. Now, one thing to note about this, because some of you are fairly new, that Prabhupada will use the word man to mean human being. So when he says man, he means man or woman. A faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge, and having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. Purport. Such knowledge in Krishna consciousness can be achieved by a faithful person who believes firmly in Krishna. One is called a faithful man who thinks that simply by acting in Krishna consciousness he can attain the highest perfection. This faith is attained by the discharge of devotional service and by chanting Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare, which cleanses one's heart of all material dirt. Over and above this, one should control the senses. A person who is faithful to Krishna and who controls the senses can easily attain perfection in the knowledge of Krishna consciousness without delay. So this is a great opportunity for all of us. And I love to chant this verse, and it's ever fresh, especially since there's always new people. Forgive me, I'm kind of getting overheated here a little bit. So we just installed the heat in the temple this year or last year, I think. And sometimes it gets pretty cold in here, but it's more with many bodies are also heating things up. So, what is the advantage of human life? So there's so many wonderful descriptions of that. This one is one of my favorites. Krishna speaks this verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Purana. Labdva sudurlamamidam bahusam bhavante manushyam artadam anityam apiya dhira turnam yateta napadeda numityavad nikshayasaya vishaya kalu sarvatak syat. So what he's saying is that labdva, you have attained what is difficult to attain. Sudurlabham. Bahusambhava, after many, many births. So we may lose the human form and then come up different species, and we always come back to the human form. But if we don't go back to Godhead and we act sinfully and out of ignorance, then we again lose it. So we now have attained it. The manusham, the word man is there, you can hear it. Manusham, human being. Artadam, very important word. It means in this human life alone, form of all the different species, and there are millions of them, you can get the ultimate goal. Like arta is something of value. Often it means money. But the real value is to break, as I mentioned, to break free of the round of birth and death and go home back to God. So in this human life alone can you do that. But like all forms, anityam, it's not eternal, it's temporary. The clock is ticking on every one of us. So one has to be dhira. He has to be sober-minded and thoughtful. What am I going to do with my life? I have a certain amount of time, energy, How am I going to direct it? Should I try to achieve the ultimate goal, get free of birth and death, and achieve a life? And, this word Satchidananda is so important. We have a Satchidananda life that we've forgotten, lost. Eternal, full of knowledge, and full of bliss, which we can't even conceive of that right now. But you get more and more taste of it as you practice Krishna consciousness. So Krishna is enjoining us. He says, understanding this, being sober-minded and thoughtful, then turnam yateta, without wasting time, strive for what? As long as we're still alive and we have our senses about us, anumritya yavat nikshayasaya, strive for the ultimate good. What is that ultimate good? Well, there are so many things that we regard as good in this world. Things that are pleasing to our senses, that are encouraging to us, and a million different things. But this is shreya as opposed to prayas. There's shreyas and prayas. We're all familiar with prayas. Prayas is the immediate good, something that we want to enjoy because it's pleasing to our senses and we enjoy it. Okay, and we have a good time, and then it plants a desire seed in our mind to do it again. You see, so now we have all of these material desires that need to be fulfilled. So that's prayas, but shreyas is the ultimate good. Again, breaking free from the bonds of birth and death, going back to the spiritual world, kingdom of God, to be reinstated in our swarup, or our original form, and our eternal siddha swarup, as our perfection of spiritual, our original form, original function, and our original relationship with God. That is our ultimate goal. So that we strive for that. Don't get wrapped up in all of this prayas and this immediate pleasure, and then trying to do it again and not being able to do it, can't afford it. Oh my God! There's a million different things. But in the shreyas, you don't need all that. You can contact Krishna within the heart by chanting the mantra and practicing devotional service. And anywhere you are, you can be happy, even in a difficult situation. We are reading about a very extraordinary devotee in the morning class, Srimad Bhagavatam. His name is Prahlad Maharaj. He eventually became a king. And he was instructed in the science of bhakti within the womb by the great spiritual master Narada Muni, who's one of the main characters in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Purana. Now, he was born into a family of demons. His father was a big demon. Even his name told, Hiranya Kashipu. He was most interested in gold, money, power. That's Hiranya. Hiranya is Sanskrit for gold. And Kashipu, which means soft bedding. And it's what's implied is bedding and the bed companion. You understand? So in other words, money and sex. That was his meditation. So he had this little boy, and he was so powerful. He performed extraordinary austerities to become extremely powerful. He was ruling the whole universe, the demon. But his child was a pure devotee, and he was fearless. Even though he's just a 5-year-old boy, and his father's this huge, powerful monster who could rule the whole universe, he wasn't afraid. He felt completely protected by Krishna. And so even though his father, finally, we're coming to the point in the Bhagavatam where his father just loses patience with him because he's incorrigible. He won't give up his devotion to Krishna, who in another form had killed the brother of Hiranyakashipu. So he was very much this arch enemy, you know. He felt that himself an arch enemy of God. So here is his son, you know, his beloved child is telling him he should surrender unto Krishna, who just killed his, you know. He said, all right, that's it. And he told his henchmen, dispatch him, you know. 5-year-old boy, they come, they grab him, they throw him into a pot of boiling oil. He's not affected. Hare Krishna, he's protected. They try to crush him under elephants, unaffected. Snakes, throw him off a mountain, everything they could think of. Tridents, nothing. His father then became very afraid because he has the strength. This is tremendous strength, defensive strength. Anyway, the story is that eventually he said, you've spoken, father, you've spoken of some God who is everywhere. Well, where is he? I don't see him. Where is he? Is he in this pillar? In the palace, you know? Yes, father, he's in the pillar. He says, yeah, right. Boom, he hits the pillar with his fist, and out comes Nrsimhadev. Some of you maybe not have heard of Nrsimhadev. His name is Nrsimha. Nra means human being, Singha means lion. So he's half man, half lion. And there's a reason why. I won't get into the whole backstory, but he came in such a form and killed the demon by ripping him apart. So, and then no one could pacify him. He was so angry. There was all these soldiers. He killed them all, and blood everywhere, you know. And all of the demigods, even Lakshmi, who was his wife, you know, was like at a distance offering some prayers, but he was still angry. But Prahlad fearlessly went up right before him and just started praying, and he became very peaceful. Then he became Komala Nrsimha, means gentle Nrsimha. And the paintings there. We don't have a painting there. Usually the temples have a big painting, but it's a little controversial because usually he's ripping apart Hiranyakashipu. The blood is everywhere, you know. I remember, this is a story. Back in Brooklyn, there were all kinds of devotees, and one of the devotees was named Antar Mali. And no one can figure, what does Antar Mali mean? You know, we have names like Govinda Das or Krishna Das, you know. Antar Mali, what does that mean? It was a name for Nrsimhadev. And it's kind of gruesome, you know, but I mean, it's all transcendental. So Antar means innards, and Mali means garland. So he had disemboweled this Hiranyakashipu, and he was wearing his intestines as a garland. Yeah, God can do that too. Anyway, so it's just one of the pastimes. Krishna comes in different forms. He has all these different pastimes. And they're delightful and wonderful to hear about. And we should know, when we hear about Krishna, we glorify him, or even read about him here, he's in our heart. He's seeing, oh, they're approaching me. They're listening about me. And so we get a boost there. We get an inspiration. And we'll see when the curtains open, you see Krishna will be smiling at you. You know. Otherwise, if you're really in a bad mood, you might look like he's frowning at you. But don't worry, I think everyone will see a beautiful smile that Krishna has. And Radharani is there. You know, with this mudra. You know what a mudra is? We all know what mudras are. We may not know the name. It's like somebody comes into the temple, you know. It's first time, they're in the back, and this is the mudra. No, I don't believe it. Devotees are like this. This is another mudra. You'll see Lord Chaitanya with this mudra. Well, Radharani has the Abhaya Dan mudra. Abhaya is fearlessness, Dan is gift. You see? And that mudra is like this. Don't worry. Don't worry, everything's going to be all right. You just listen to chant my name, and you look at us, and you hear Bhagavad Gita. Everything's going to be fine. You see, it's very encouraging, you know, and heartwarming for the devotees. So we'll see that. All right, it's almost time. I'm going to leave a little poem with you. I did that. I had a certain period where I was writing a lot of poetry. So this is based on a verse from the Shastra, from the scripture, where an incarnation of Krishna is speaking to his sons. It's not exact translation. So So basically, this is the message. He says, and I think I dealt with this a little bit. Okay. So don't waste this precious human life, dear friend, by working hard for hoggish happiness. Through bhakti yoga, worldly life transcend and learn to taste divine love's endless bliss. That's what this movement is all about. So thank you for listening. You're all invited. If you can't make it personally, this is online. These classes, you can listen to them. And please read the Bhagavad Gita if you don't have one. Try to pick one up and read it regularly, and we can try to answer all your questions as best we can. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Hare Bol. And now we'll gather over here, and the curtains will open, and we'll chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. And if you're interested, tomorrow, same time, we'll go on with our study of Bhagavad Gita. Text 39. Yeah. Go ahead. Is it